guys, welcome to my YouTube channel, and in this video we are going to have a hands-on tutorial on programming with C++. Yeah, whether you are a beginner or advanced or intermediate, whatever level you are, if you are watching this video, I think this is the right video for you, because I'm going to be going through week 1 of this slide in particular. And yes, the topic is programming with C++. So let's dive into it. Now in this video tutorial, or this chapter, we'll be talking about the language C++, why we should use it, the difference between C and then C++, and then the object-oriented concepts, and the last objective, which is the standard library components. Alright, so first things first, C++, yes, it's a programming language. And first of all, what is a programming language? Programming language is basically the language that helps we humans interact with the computers, right? Just like the way we humans interact with other humans using languages like English, Tree, French, German, and Spanish, and the rest, right? So the same way computers have what we call programming languages that help we humans and computers to interact, right? And then there are several numbers of them. We have Python, Java, JavaScript, PHP, many others, right? We also have C and C++ and C sharp. But then in this video, I'm going to be talking about C++. Okay, so the language C++, right? It was created by Bjorn Strastrup, right? Excuse me if I may have mispronounced the name, but then yeah, it was created by this man in 1979, right? And fun fact, C++ is just an extension of the language C, right? The only addition, or what makes C++ different from C, is that C++ has the implementation of object-oriented programming, right? We'll go into that in the series of these video tutorials I'll be doing. Alright, so yeah, fun fact, C++ was formerly named C with classes, right? And then as time went on, C++ became the name, right? Now, why C++? In programming, we have what we call the increment operator, right? Then yeah, basically when you want to increase a value or an integer by 1, we use what we call the plus plus. So in this case, the plus plus in the C++ is telling us that it's an upgraded version, or a higher version of the language C, right? Good. So what makes C++ special? Like I said, it has object-oriented programming in it, and it makes writing code modular and then reusable. Alright. Yeah, why C++? It is used in every computer system. Yeah, in gaming, building OS, a whole lot, right? You can name them. And we said C++ has object-oriented programming. Now, what do we mean by that? Right, so in C++, we model real-world things using objects, right? These objects encapsulate both data and then functions that act on them. And there are 4 key principles that we have in object-oriented programming, right? And yeah, we'll just brush on them in this video tutorial. Subsequently, in the other videos, I'll be talking about them. Alright, so yeah, we have okay, we have what we call abstraction or data abstraction. That's the first key principle of object oriented programming, or OOP for short. So we have data abstraction, and what it does is that, or what this concept is about, is just simplifying the complexity of codes, right, by creating classes. Yes, like I said, we will delve in deeper as we go on in the other videos. And we also have encapsulation or data encapsulation. Now, encapsulation simply means hiding the internal details, right? Hiding the complex processes that goes on in your codes, and then just displaying results. Yes, exactly. And we have what we call the inheritance, and is it means you reusing features from other classes, right? And then the last one we have polymorphism. Is simply means doing things in many forms, right? Doing things in many forms. Yes, I don't want to delve in that much in this tutorial because I'll be talking about these concepts in the subsequent videos. Okay, so now how do we write C++ code, or how do we get started? So we have what we call IDE, right? IDE or IDEs, yes, integrated something. Yeah, forgive me, I've forgotten, but then yes, they help us write codes and then run them as well. So what we are going to be using in this video is code blocks, right? There are several number of them. We have Visual Studio Code, Sublime Text, Notepad++, C Lion, and many others. There are a whole lot. So based on what you want to use, or you are familiar with, or based on what is okay for you, maybe the theme or the interface is okay for you, you can use it. And then let me mention, C++ is one of those languages that needs a compiler to run it. And then what does a compiler do? So a compiler basically, it converts the codes, right, that we have typed. The codes are in English, let me see. So it converts the codes into machine language. That's the ones and zero, the binaries, for the computer to understand. So that's the purpose of the compiler. And C++ is one of those languages that you need a compiler to help you run. Yes, help you run. So yeah, back to our IDE. We have code blocks. You can get it on the code blocks website. You just search for code blocks on Google, and then you are good to go. So alright, now let's get our hands dirty. So we open our code blocks, and then we want to start something. So we go to create new project, right? And then over here you're going to select console application. Then you can see C and C++. We are doing C++, so we go with C++. Next, then I'm going to name this week 1, week_1, right? Next, and this is the name of the compiler, GCC compiler or GNU GCC compiler, right? And I finish. Now my project has been created, as you can see, week 1, and this is the C++ file. So the C++ has the extension .cpp. So when you see .cpp anyway, it means it's an extension, it's a C++ file, right? Now the main here, you can name it any name you want. Yes, so So far as it's having .cpp, then it means it's a C++ file. The other programming languages to have their extensions. They are called extensions. So yes, in code blocks, when you create a project, by default it gives you this basic line of codes, right? And this is basically the basic codes in C++ when you are getting started, right? So it has done my work for me actually. So I'm just going to explain what each part of this code does, right? So here's our first C++ program. I'm going to break it down. So we have include IOStream. Now the first line here is what we call the header part of the code, or the header file, right? It is where we call the header files, right? So in C++, it has a lot of inbuilt features and functions, and in order to use certain functions, you need to include them in your code, right? And we use the syntax #include to include whatever libraries we want to include in order to use certain functions. So we see over here, we see IOStream. Now the IOStream is a library which contains the cout function. What does the cout do? The cout, it displays or it prints out something, right? Or whatever you want to display. The cout is a function that will allow you to display. And then we have the cin. The cin is what helps you to type in something, or it takes the user's input. Makes sense. So we can see over here IOStream std cout, right? So it's trying to tell us that this cout function is inside the IOStream library. So this place is called a preprocessor. Yes. And we have the user namespace std. Now this is something really interesting, because this line of code over here, it has made some of the work, or the workload, easier, because the std here, right, is also a library, and it's without this line of code, you would have to add some extra things to the cout and then the nl before your code will be able to run well, right? But then okay, let me finish and then I'll run it. After that, I'll run it without this line, then we'll see whether we get an error, and we'll see what to do. Alright, so apart from this and this, we move on to the int main. Now the int main over here is considered as the main function in the C++. It's where everything has to be in order for your program to work. Other things can be outside, but then at the end of the day, if you want to display something, it has to be in the main function, right? And the way to declare the function is int, then main, then parenthesis, then your curly brackets. So everything that you want to display or do or anything, it should be in between these two curly brackets, right? Makes sense. So we are going to run this program, and we use this build and run button. You hit it and give it some time. Okay, great. So as we can see, hello world is over here, and that's what we typed over here. So the cout is displaying this, and this is what we call a string, right? So we'll be looking at that in the rest of the videos, data types. And then the end line here is telling the computer to that um after this line, right, it should just move to the next line. So when I add another line, say this is week one's video, it is a good practice to always be adding your end line. That is, if it depends on what you're doing, but then you should add it to make your code cleaner. So I run it again, and you can see after the hello world, it jumps to the next line and then prints this, right? Now, one important thing you should know in C++ is that this punctuation, the semicolon, is very very important. Very very important. Without it, you are going to be facing a lot of errors, right? So now moving on, I'm going to take this out, or let me comment it. Comment by using double slash, right? We'll talk more about commenting as we move on. Now, let me run this. So you realize that I faced an error. That is when I commented this line. When I remove this line, now I'm facing an error. They're saying that C out was not declared in this scope. So how can I fix this? I can fix this by adding this std colon, right? I'll add it to everything that has to do with the IO stream in my code. So std dot good. Now let's run our code and see. See, now it's running. Now our code is running. So my point is, the using namespace std is there to help us avoid typing this long thing all the time, right? Good. So it's making our life and our work easier, right? So yeah, I'm going to remove them now. When I run them, to work. And before I run it, imagine I forgot to add this semicolon and then I run it. You realize I'm getting an error. And what's the error? They expected a semicolon before this C out, so I'll put a semicolon back. And now, what if I remove this end L? Let me run it and see. So realize that there is no line break, there's no space. After the hello world, this week's video comes, right? So that is the importance of the end line chassis function. And then there's another thing you can do, /n. So this is a /n. Is basically does the same thing as the end line, right? So I run it and ta-da. Good. Now moving on, in the slides was something about process and a thread, right? So let me talk about them. And yes, so um, every time we run our program, right, it becomes a process, and then inside that process, we have multiple things going on, and those multiple things are what we call threads, right? Think of threads as mini workers inside a factory. You get? So yes, the main thing, or anytime we run our codes, the main thing that's going on is a process, and then those sub processes inside the main process is what we call the threads, right? Good. So yes, this is explaining what I'm saying. Have the main thing as a process, and then the other, or the mini things going on, is what we call the thread. All right. Okay. So that's a wrap of week one of C++ programming, right? Up next, we'll dive into variables, data types, and basic operations, right? Thank you, and I hope this video was a blessing to you. Don't forget to like, comment with your questions, and subscribe if you found this very, very helpful. God bless.